Welcome to the EHS Radio Show on Siemens FM. I'm your host, David Walker. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming down with us. Today is a very special edition of the EHS Radio Show, as I will give you my perspective on total worker health and well-being at Siemens. I recently had the honor of presenting at the HSE Congress Global Series, more specifically the HSE North American Congress in Atlanta. Series is hosted by Paul and Katie Clark, and it was an honor to be in front of all my peers, very, very smart and experienced environmental health and safety experts. Before I go into the meat of the presentation, I believe it's important that I tell you about myself, because telling you about myself will give you the foundation and maybe help explain why I'm so passionate about total worker health and well-being. I'm a 25-year plus veteran of the Siemens family. That's a lot of years in some companies, but probably just about in the middle of the road for Siemens, as I work with many colleagues that are 35 to 40 years into their career with our great company, and they're still going strong. My role, as we say inside of Siemens, is dual-hatted. I am the EHS head for Siemens Digital Industries in the United States, and I am the Senior Director of Occupational Safety for Siemens Industries, Inc. in the U.S. I currently sit on the staff of both the U.S. President of Siemens Digital Industries and the U.S. EHS Vice President. I'm 60 years old. I live in Galveston, Texas with my wife of 39 years. She is a Texas educator. More formally, she is an academic advisor in the public school system. I have two sons, one who is 36 years of age and one who is 32. I have a couple of dogs, which I care about quite a bit, and most important to know, I still really look forward to going to work every single day at Siemens. As you can probably tell, I'm proud to work for Siemens. Siemens is a very diverse company with, as of September 2022, somewhere around 311,000 coworkers. In the United States, we deliver factory automation innovations, smart building capabilities, equipment and monitoring, cutting-edge medical innovations, and software innovations, airport baggage solution systems, electrical equipment, both consumer and commercial, and high-speed rail systems, commuter rail systems, and we even build Amtrak locomotives. There are others that I've left out, but just to give you a glimpse, it's a pretty healthy portfolio and a pretty healthy company. I have professed for many years that I live and I work by these three simple philosophies. I have over the years shared these with many of my peers, both entry-level and seasoned. Number one, every time I cash my check with Siemens, Siemens and I are even. They promised to pay me what we agreed upon on time. And they do. In return, I promise to do 100% of everything that I agreed upon that I would do for them. Number two, as long as it is not illegal, unethical, or immoral, I will do my very best to support the company, which incidentally for me is creating a healthy and safe work environment for all of our colleagues. If I can't do that, I'll leave, but I've never been put in that situation. Number three, maybe the biggest driving influence of my career is that I treat people the way that I want to be treated. And along with that, you don't judge people. Personally, I always told myself that I didn't really judge people, but I never really lived it 100% every single day. Until about 16 years ago when my oldest son was victim to a motorcycle accident and suffered a traumatic brain injury. He's a survivor. He's a great story, and one day we'll probably have him here on the podcast. I bring him up because it slapped me in the face of how we discriminate people, all of us, based upon how they look, how they talk, how quick they are with their speech promotion or their mobility. A lot of us are really quick to judge and invoke stereotypical stigmas without even realizing it. Here's what happened for me. I was off work with my son for about 4 months during the first year of his hospitalization and therapy. When I first came back to work, I walked into the office, and there were a group of my colleagues standing at a big window on the third floor looking down at the street. They were looking at and discussing a young lady sitting on the curb with a cup on the hood of a police car. The officer was standing over her and talking to her. My colleagues, and I'm positive they really didn't realize they were doing it, started laughing and made comments to the effect of, "Oh my goodness, that lady has a real problem. It's 6:30 in the morning and she's already drunk." It was at that moment, without even a hint of hesitation, that I quipped back and I said, "Looks to me like she's had a seizure or possibly a reaction to some type of medication. She's not drunk." A few minutes later, the ambulance arrived and they walked her to the back and they helped her. But it woke me up. Looking back, it was my first real reactionary impulse that would be the forerunner to my convertism to being an advocate to total worker health and well-being. 12 months before the incident, I would have led the criticism or strongly contributed to it and not even realized I did it. I would never do that again. From that incident forward, without even realizing it, I would defend for a place free of discriminatory judgment and bias, a healthy work environment. But I was still a classical safety guy, and the stuff I was talking about was just homespun, and at the time we didn't discuss it at work, let alone from a management level. My role has always been with the environmental protection, health management, and safety function inside Siemens. When I started with Siemens, it was, without question, little e, micro h, and big S. It had always been that way. Environmental protection was just something we complied with to keep the regulators off our backs, and total worker health and well-being was the responsibility of human resources. After all, they knew all about the medical benefits, the employee assistance programs, and they participated in the management of worker compensation claims. It was that way for a long, long time. But then in 2009, Siemens hired a new global head of EHS. This person was a real MD, yes, a real medical doctor, and he started talking about worker health. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, just scratched my head and wondered, what in the heck is this guy talking about? We take care of safety. And I meant in the terms of classical safety. I guess we were satisfied at the time of just being the safety cops, or we just didn't know what we didn't know. We were perceived by our colleagues many times as a necessary evil, oftentimes buried deep down in the organization. I wish I knew then what I know now about the vision of our global EHS leader, Ralph Franke. He was, without doubt, way ahead of his time. We, being the Siemens EHS function, have evolved and continue to evolve across the globe as a trusted partner to all the businesses and companies inside our framework, which, by the way, is about 45,000 employees plus in the U.S. If you haven't caught on by now, I believe in the power of Siemens, and I believe so much in the vision of Dr. Ralph Franke, who long ago saw a need for us to be advocates and drivers to empower and influence our colleagues to have a say in a very safe and healthy, secure, productive, robust work environment. I guess you could say I drank the Kool-Aid and I liked it, and I still like it. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about total worker health and why it's so important to Siemens. We realize that workers who experience mental health issues both in the work and hybrid work environments are likely to suffer high levels of anxiety, insomnia, and unfortunately, probably some level of depression. Let me say that again. Listen. Workers who experience mental health issues, both in the work and hybrid work environments, are likely to suffer high levels of anxiety, insomnia, and unfortunately, probably some level of depression. Does this affect the productivity of office and field and factory employees? Often debated, and everyone has a right to their opinion, but I truly believe it has a major impact on my coworkers' productivity. Not too long ago, and probably even today in some cultures in the United States, and that's right, there are many cultures in the United States, it was, and sometimes still is, taboo to discuss mental health issues and disorders. I'm proud to say it's not taboo at Siemens. Siemens USA especially encourages and educates our colleagues on warning signs and signals. Not only does this condition affect their work productivity, but it affects their home life and their work-life balance, and we profess loudly to wanting to give all employees a home-work-life balance. People get burned out if you don't, and we lose good people. Sometimes it takes years and sometimes longer than that to replace the knowledge and skills that leave because of this. If one of our colleagues suffers because of a mental health condition or disorder, they can't really thrive, and they're not really able to live the quality of life that they deserve, both in the work environment and in the non-work environment. Ask yourself this with an open mind. What is total worker health? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the business to provide a healthy, safe, and secure workplace? Does it really make a difference if you provide this type of workplace environment? How do you measure it? Why would you measure it? I'm going to give you some of my opinions based upon my work history and experiences, and I will tell you without hesitation I am a convert from the stereotypical classic safety guy. Remember, little e, micro h, and big S. To now I work every day on molding myself into a safety leader who has a mission to create, support, and nurture a safe, healthy, and secure workplace, both at work and at home. Before we go any further, listen to this statement. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a part of the whole show. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just race, gender, and ethnicity, but also, in my viewpoint, is about being open to ideas, values, morals, and ways of learning or communicating, ways of expressing ideas that are not the same as ours. From my standpoint in my current position, I see that as a very powerful and important part of my work ideology. Why? Because if you don't empower your colleagues to grow, you have suppressed your colleagues, and you've probably alienated them. You've created an adversarial environment and driven them away from being themselves for fear of repression, oppression, ridicule, and non-acceptance. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just race, gender, and ethnicity, but is a critical part that contributes to the total success on the journey to total worker health and well-being. Now, I wish I'd have thought of that myself, but I have to give credit to one of my colleagues at Siemens, Ray McCleary. Another key component to the positive creation and sustainment of total worker health lies within the theater of stakeholder management. You can find a plethora of definitions on the internet and probably a lot of interpretations, but stakeholder management does go together with what we are doing in our organization to the positive creation and sustainment of total worker health. To me, stakeholder management involves recognizing people and acknowledging their success. It involves listening to people. It involves communicating with people. And it involves adopting their ideas and making sure they have the appropriate workload and tools to do their job. Stakeholder management is an integral part, in my opinion, of creating a healthy, safe, and secure work environment, thus contributes to total worker health and well-being. Question: do you really believe total worker health and well-being matters to the people in the C-suite, or the shareholders, or the office directors, or the managers? Is it viewed as just another flavor of the month EHS campaign? Why should it matter is a good question that is easy to philosophize as to what we think, because we know the right things to say, but do we really believe them, and do we really practice what we preach? At Siemens, which incidentally is for the 8th year in a row ranked number 1 by Forbes Industrial Machines, we started looking at total worker health and well-being quite some time before COVID set in. In all honesty, I would be remiss to tell you that COVID didn't give us the jump start, the boost that really threw it in the forefront of all levels of management within the organization. Because of the hybrid work environment that COVID demanded, we saw a reality that individuals and teams and groups were being affected in some not very positive ways. We had the people who went to both extremes on COVID, and we had most who were in the middle. But all were affected. We started asking people questions in our global engagement surveys and in person. We asked questions that talk about what they did at work and their work tasks. Incidentally, we are so fortunate at Siemens because we have a true psychologist on our EHS global staff. Her name is Anna Borg. Anna has gone above and beyond to teach and educate us about total worker health and well-being. Our survey that we present to our employees is made up of 4 aspects. We ask about the work task aspect, the work organization aspect, the collaboration aspect, and the work environment aspect. On the work task aspect, we ask questions like, I have a say in how I organize my work. What does this have to do with contributing to a positive total worker health environment? Well, for example, that helps determine the level of autonomy. And depending on the level of autonomy, it encourages people to show personal initiative, which results in the feeling of empowerment, which goes a long way in promoting continuous improvement and innovation. If you have a group of people, and you have to really look at this over a whole scheme, not just one individual at a time, though individuals are important. If that group doesn't feel like they have a say in how they organize their work, then what kind of continuous improvement and innovation would you expect to see? We ask questions that have to do with the perception of access to appropriate learning opportunities to be able to carry out their work professionally. Why and how does this contribute? Scholars, psychologists, and researchers will tell you that people who have access to learning opportunities can continuously develop their skills and capabilities. You live and you learn. This applies equally to knowledge, technical capabilities, social and communication skills, and in all of our businesses today, the use of digital media tools. It matters that people still continuously develop their skills and capabilities. How many of you remember the old cartoon that came out years ago? And I know you probably have seen it in some form or another. I remember the cartoon in the newspaper vividly. It's been a long time. But in the first box, it depicts a plant manager on one side of the desk and an HR manager at their own desk on the other side. In that first box, there's a bubble above the plant manager. And that person says to the HR manager, what if we provide all this training and they take it with them and use it at another company? What if they take all the training and we invest in their growth and they leave? And I remember the next box, the text bubble over the HR manager, who very calmly looking, says to the plant manager, what if we don't? And they stay. Companies that invest in their employees always seem to come out on top, and Siemens is one of those companies. Companies that suppress their employees and are afraid to empower them or provide them opportunities, in my opinion, become stagnant, and eventually all hell breaks loose within that company. Do you personally feel it's important to provide a lot of information to your employees about what's going on within their project or company? Well, we think it is. One of our questions, we ask if the employee feels they get all the information they need to do their work well. Why we ask this is because we feel that for people to get their work done, they must have access to all the necessary and complete information. So, in other words, if all the information is available to them, work can be done on time, and workarounds are often avoided, which helps avoid stress and promotes a healthier work-life balance. We ask our colleagues if they feel like they can be their self at work. And this touches on the emotional part of this thing. It allows our colleagues to bring their whole self to work and interact with the team, their supervisors, their business partners. And why is this important? We strongly feel that if an employee can bring their whole self to work, their creativity, productivity, and overall performance does increase. Remember we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion? We want all of our colleagues to know that they are supported and encouraged to be open and always respected in their interactions with their colleagues, even if they view things differently. Always a challenge because Siemens is so diverse. There are so many personalities, but my goodness, what an awesome way to get new ideas and figure out ways of doing things that help keep Siemens a preferred employer. How do you find out if an employee feels empowered? We ask them if they can apply their strengths and work, their qualifications, the opportunity to contribute their personal qualifications, expertise, and skills. We know of employees who bring their work experience to their job, whether it's brought in or obtained through their experience with Siemens, have a sense of fulfillment and are highly motivated individuals. Being empowered to use and develop your own skills no doubt boosts productivity, performance, and drives motivation to get things done. On the work organization aspect, we ask the classic question if their work schedule allows them enough flexibility to meet their personal needs. We ask it, and we want to know because people that feel they can be flexible in their schedules are enabled to give their very best. This aligns with both the agreement on working hours and their ability to separate their private life and work life by having the opportunity to schedule their work. How many of our companies ever ask if they feel that the workload is appropriate? If they ask their employees if they feel their workload is appropriate? That's a loaded question. Everybody feels like they're overworked. But if you're really digging in, you may discover there is a realistic connection between time and task, which, if planned correctly, will provide for improved quantity and quality of the tasks that will be produced. If a person feels that their workload is appropriate, it doesn't mean they don't have a lot of work. It might mean that they don't feel the weight of a heavy burden and in turn creates the climate for that employee to do their work well, providing a high quality output. We ask our employees if they believe they have a positive future with Siemens. Job security is critical today, even with the great resignation, the boomerang employees, and the generations that don't want to contribute to the success of the man. There are still a lot of people out there that want job security. So when an employee feels good about the direction the company's taking, they perceive their job as a secure haven and see their career as one that has opportunities in it. They will in turn invest more energy working toward the company's goals. I know that's kind of heavy, but I really believe it's true. We work consciously hard about not interrupting our employees all the time with meetings and calls, both in person and live stream. We ask them if they feel like they're interrupted a lot or that interruptions or disturbances prevent them from doing their work. We feel that the employee being able to concentrate and do one task at a time yields high quality results. If a colleague has a chance to complete their work and do it for prolonged periods of time without unpredictable interruptions, it also increases their individual satisfaction of job completion. Praise is a big one that we ask about, and we ask our people, if I do great work, I know it will be recognized. Positive endorsement is a basic, fundamental human need. There is a need to be valued, recognized, and appreciated. In the work environment, recognition within the team or the organization provides high satisfaction and empowers our colleagues as being treated and perceived as experts at what they do. On the work environment aspect, we ask our employees if they feel like they have all the tools to do their job. And I always perceive this question as more of an operational question to find out if the employee thought the company was really providing the tools they needed to do their job. The underlying hope is that our colleagues have everything they need to do their job, and workplaces need to be ergonomically designed and well equipped with infrastructure, tools, operating, and work resources, including IT and reliable online access. We don't make a person do a job with caveman tools, but the question really does revolve around employee health and well-being and is a true contributor to total worker health. Having the right tools and setups reduces anxiety and stress because the individual doesn't have to spend time and energy trying to figure out how they can do their job without the tools they need. On the work collaboration aspect, we ask the employee if they feel they experience excellent collaboration between themselves and the team. Keep in mind that we're looking to get a pulse on the perceived quality of collaboration and teamwork within the colleagues on the team, not personal relationships. Why? Seems obvious because good collaboration is one of the most important resources of all in our day-to-day work. It is vital for successful and personally satisfying work. Now, I shared with you one of the ways we formally measure total worker health and well-being and some of the things we look for at Siemens. We also strongly promote and encourage from the very top level learning time at work. We empower our team leaders to promote a healthy work climate by being available to talk to their teams individually and collectively. We encourage open discussions and offer flexible schedules to organize the individual workloads. We, without any fear of retaliation or retribution, empower our colleagues to stop work if it doesn't look right or it doesn't feel right. We insist that our team members take a few moments to be sure they have a clear head before they start a task. One of the keys to this journey, the biggest factor, next to asking someone, is listening. The old saying, 2 ears and 1 mouth, applies here. Another personal message I want to share with you all. I learned during my son's recovery journey. I do not ask an individual, "How are you doing?" Most people, in my opinion, just ask this out of habit and really don't care. After all, how in the heck do you think I'm doing? At the time, my son was in critical condition, lying in an induced coma, no bright light at the end of the tunnel, part of his brain removed. How in the heck do you think I was doing? I learned to ask people, "How are you today?" A person can answer that question, "Today's a good day," or "Today is not a good day. I'm struggling." And personal empathy that you profess can really shine at that time. It's okay not to be okay. You can ask people, "How are you today?" And if they're not okay, it's okay. At Siemens, we're not experts at this in every corner of the world, and we strive to be, but we know we have to continue to grow and educate ourselves on this, and we must be role models and examples to our colleagues and our peers. Speaking of role models, how many of us listening today really walk the talk? How many of us listening today take our own advice? We, as leaders, are so enthusiastic and driven. We're solution-oriented. We put ourselves second many times, though. Ask yourself, seriously, from deep down inside, are you really the role model? Are you really the role model that you would follow when it comes to total worker health and well-being? How many of us listening today have seen desperation and anxiety on the face of a colleague or in their actions? And how many of us have stepped up as a leader and without any whisper of hesitation encouraged that colleague to take a breath, take some time off, take some time to recharge, regroup, clear your head, take a mental health day, or get some professional help, and you assured him that it's okay not to be okay? How many of us listening today take our own advice? Do we lead by example, and do we walk that talk? There are some studies that proclaim leaders, and many of you listening are true leaders, see a higher use of employer-provided mental health benefits when they truly lead by example. As I close this episode of the EHS radio show, I want to tell you it's a very complex issue that I try to make simple. After all, if it's not simple, I can't understand it. I want to create a healthy, safe, productive, secure work environment. How would I do that? I ask, I observe, I listen, and then I act if I need to. The biggest of these is I listen. You don't have to do a survey. You can start within your own teams. You can educate people on the reality and provide education to your frontline supervisors. After all, it will improve the quality and productivity of their areas of responsibility. You can sell it to your top management. It improves the bottom line. It could slow absenteeism, and it could fend off some of the great resignation mindsets and attract some of the boomerang employees back that you want in your company. It's a win-win. There are a lot of good resources out there, and I think you should pick the ones that are important to you. I encourage you to download the U.S. Surgeon General's report, Workplace Mental Health and Wellbeing. It's free. A lot of good information on there, and he published it in November of 2022. I recommend you add these books to your personal and professional library. Coach, A Safety Leadership Fable by Sean Galloway. Humble Inquiry by Edgar Steen. Teaches you how to ask questions. And 7 Insights into Safety Leadership by Thomas R. Krause and Kristen J. Bell. That's kind of a staple in any one of our personal and work libraries. I appreciate you letting me share this with you today, and I hope it brings some ideas or maybe provokes some thought. And as always, you can reach out to me at david.w.walker@siemens.com if you have any questions or comments. You've been listening to the EHS radio show on Siemens FM. Be kind to everyone, and for heaven's sakes, be safe.